All right, peace worlds. Come on, Freeman, Anglo Black Man Therapy, representing We Act Radio. We here live in Anacostia at the Busboys and Poets on the radical side of Monkey Avenue, right down the street from We Act Radio. Our studio's been renovated. We're looking forward to relaunching the Artivism Library here shortly later this year with the largest collection of banned books in the city as part of our efforts to gentrify our own hood, as the late, great Nipsey Hussle said. But I'm joined here today with Mustafa Abdul Salam. I got it right? I got it right. Mustafa Abdul Salam. We always want to talk about anti-Semitism, but we don't talk about Islamophobia, and trying to, sanitize the Arabic language. But we just met today at the Anacostia Arts Center, the family photo at the Anacostia Arts Center, because the Anacostia Arts Center is designated to be extensive renovations. Going to be 9 to 12 months with the permit, God's willing, before it is opening its doors again. It will be closing in November. And we took a photo that they wanted to uplift the resistance to displacement and gentrification. And Mustafa Abdul Salam here, I'm so honored to know him and support the work he's done. He has authored and a collective of information went into a report for the Ward 8 Community Economic Development Plan, Indigenous Plan, our own self-determination plan, a dream deserved, realizing our collective emergence. A dream deserved, not deferred, deserve, realizing our collective emergence. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it rotten in the sun like a raisin? So I'm gonna give it to over you. Tell the people what we are missing and what we need to do, because we're trying to push back and acknowledge that east of the river is the last drip drop of Chocolate City, and maybe it's just a chocolate chip, but it's time for us to put our chips together.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the work that you've been doing, Kimon, for quite some time. And your vehicle that you use around communication is very important. So to have an opportunity to talk with you and share what has been happening over the last couple of years around the report is very timely. So I welcome the opportunity.
So, real quick, what went into this? How long did it take? And how did you find the time and the resources to pull it together?
Well, I've been working in the field of community economic development for close to over 4 decades. So I actually was around before the anti-poverty movement was launched, and that's in the early 60s. And what people who weren't around need to appreciate is that before all these government agencies, federal and state and local, were created to deal with poverty, the community dealt with poverty. And with all the billions of dollars that have been pumped into addressing poverty, we have more poverty now than ever before. Because what happened over the last 60 years with the anti-poverty movement, it took away our capacity at the community level to do for ourselves. And it created all these entities that were part of a top-down model that prevented the community from building its own capacity to take care of itself. That it had up to the time the anti-poverty movement was taking place. So what we see now with the current administration really trying to eliminate a lot of these programs is bittersweet in a way, because people have become very dependent on them. But at the same time, it has kept us in a culture of poverty. And at this point in time, we need to move away from that. We need to focus on wealth building as our top priority, because wealth, accumulating wealth on an individual level or collective level addresses a lot of our issues. And until we build wealth, we're always going to be subject to someone from the top-down model dictating, what our community looks like and what are the priorities in our community. So this report was an attempt for the community from a bottom-up perspective to identify what it wanted to project at its future and the vision that it wanted for the community. So we interviewed over 1,000 residents, had over 50 town hall meetings, and out of that came this report and the information in the report. So if you haven't read it yet, it's an excellent opportunity to see exactly what the community is saying. And if you're in Ward 8 doing anything around service delivery or program or business, then you need to read this report to make sure that you're in line with the residents and the community's vision. Otherwise, you're being counterproductive to what we're trying to do.
So what people need to realize is that 30% of all the children in the nation's capital live in poverty. 30%. One out of three live in poverty in the nation's capital. And the majority of those children live east of the river. And therein lies the problem, because those should be unacceptable levels. And of course, this is like twice the national average. And so when he says that we have institutionalized poverty, Nelson Mandela said that poverty is violence. Okay, poverty is violence. I was talking to a friend of mine just the other day, and we was talking about they're conservative. You know, it seems like black and conservative should be an oxymoron. Like, what are you conserving? Other than the status quo, of course. They was like, well, we don't have the grocery stores because the people are stealing food in the grocery store. Okay, that should be telling you something. If people are stealing food, you know, I do not believe it should be criminal to steal food when you have the fact that the average white family has 81 times the wealth of the average black family in the nation's capital, and yet we're criminals because a third of our children live in poverty, and we're stealing food. I think these should be unacceptable. I think it's a failure of the system. I think it's a conviction of the system, because it's whereas poverty makes money. You know, the fact is that when we live in a food desert, they charge more for less. We don't have access to fresh food, but it costs us more to access it. When we don't have a grocery store in our neighborhood, you can't grocery shop on Metro because they won't allow you on the bus without with more than I think it's two bags. You know, if you got a full family, and you can't, like, how you supposed to do that? You know, so it's very expensive to be poor. So what can we do to? And of course, if folks who do not know, I run for Congress here in D.C. I will be doing it again next year. Eleanor Holmes Norton is now literally the oldest person in the House, and that's a federal level. But there's a lot of things we can do from that standpoint, that viewpoint, and that bully pulpit, if you will, to rally support around some of the issues that you find in this Ward 8 Community Economic Development Report. But outside of what I can do in my efforts to achieve political office, what can we do on the ground right now to encourage, support the implementations, at least some aspects of this plan, as we now currently see it?
Yeah. Well, it's important that we recognize the need for a framework. As I mentioned, the top-down model that we've been working under has not worked for us. There's no evidence that operating from a top-down perspective is what Black people in particular need, because those resources that are there at the top, they never reach us. The people who make the decision at the top are not even knowledgeable of our needs, and definitely don't reflect the community. So a bottom-up model says that we who are at the community level need to make more of the decisions around how funds are allocated, where those funds go, and we need to control those funds. Until we have a top-down model that we operate from, we're always going to be subjugated and victimized by those who have the top-down model and control the top-down model. And it doesn't matter even skin color, because we're all orientated from a top-down perspective. You know, you could be black and or a person of color, and if you're operating with that top-down model, you're still not allowing the community to really engage and have the ownership of this process to make it effective. So this framework of community economic development is our way out. And community economic development is totally different from the macroeconomic development process that normally comes into our community, where you have the city government who is looking to raise taxes or bring in more taxes, and you have the private sector, particularly developers, looking to make profit. Community economic development talks about more livable wage jobs, more affordable housing, a better educational process, a workforce development that leads to employment. These are the things that strengthen the community. And in most economic development models, particularly macro models, that's not incorporated. And that's why when we go to the meetings and we have these conversations with city government and developers, we are frustrated because what they're talking about economics is not the same for what we're talking about. So this report lays out what community economic development looks like from the community perspective and what is important for the community to engage in. So the more people we have that read it, the more leaders that we have embracing it, particularly our elected officials. We should not elect anyone into office unless they have endorsed this report and support the report. Because if we elect them without them having something that they're responsible to, how do we hold them accountable? You know, it allows them to be all over the place. But if we have an elected official that says, I support this report and I'm going to follow this report, then we can make sure by monitoring, their decision making that they're consistent with what the report says. Accountability is the key because unless we force accountability, then nothing's going to change. People are going to do what's expendable, what's right for them, and not necessary for the best interest of the community. So accountability is important in this report because it's a written document that really reflects the community's vision. Is a report that we can hold people accountable to.
Brother Mustafa, we have recently had you open the last Ward 8 debate. It was held again at the Anacostia Arts Center. And Sheila Bunn was the only person there that endorsed the Ward 8 Community Economic Development Plan that you have authored. I would have to say as a disclaimer that the former incumbent, Trayon White, was not in attendance, and the other Ward 8 candidate, Salim Adolfo, was not in attendance. But outside of that, what has been the response from our elected officials, if any, with the contents of the Ward 8 Community Economic Development Plan? Because it's not just the absence of a Ward 8 council member leadership, but we also are part and parcel of the 4 at-large council members as well.
Well, we've been at this now for a solid 5 years, and putting this report together. It was completed in 2023. The actual impetus for it came out of the Ward 8 Senior Community Economic Development Council, made up of seniors that live in Ward 8, who took leadership in saying that we needed a plan. And it was out of that advocacy that I, took the ball and ran with it, brought other people to the table, and the end product is the report. This was, again, a pure bottom-up process. The mayor, the city council had no involvement of this. Any city agencies haven't. So it really reflects the kind of capacity that exists in Ward 8, where we could put together a report like this and do it totally as resident-driven. We had a number of service providers around the table, but the core of this report is really the residents saying that we want something that reflects our interests, and that's why the report is the vision of the community. We're at a point now where if we can mobilize and organize around this report, it puts us in a position to go to the mayor, the council, and any other elected official or government agency and say, from this point on, if you want to do something in Ward 8, you need to use the report as your guide. You need to endorse it, and we need to hold them accountable by how we vote. There shouldn't be anybody that we vote for that has not endorsed this report, because if they haven't, then why are we giving them our vote? So we need to, again, rally around the report, unify around the report. The more we unify around it, the more strength we have. And we have strength in numbers. To be able to pull together 10, 20,000 residents that follow this vision makes us one of the most powerful groups in the district. And we can shape public policy with that kind of numbers and that kind of movement. So we should not take our effort lightly. I think for too long, we didn't have a sense of direction. And because of that, I think it has frustrated people. But this report gives us a clear direction. And the challenge now is how many people in the community we can get to understand this report, read it, and embrace it, and collectively make it the direction that we want to go into collectively.
Brother Mustafa Abdul Salam, I want to thank you for the work you're doing. This is going to be a towering testimony to your legacy, and you're leaving us a blueprint right here to follow and implement. We will continue to stay on top of this. This is the first of many conversations and we will be back with you after the election on the 15th.
Okay.
And when we got the results, whoever has the seat, they're going to be in a hot seat because we're going to be challenging them to actually do something for the people, do something for poverty, do something for racial equity, do something for economic justice east of the river to make sure that poverty is no longer the terrorism that's been imposed upon our people, and with the fact that so many of us are forced to see grocery stores suffering from theft because the people are actually starving in the nation's capital. It should be unacceptable, and poverty should not be tolerated. This is Kimon Freeman on behalf of We Act Real here at Busboys and Poets on the Radical Side of Martin King Avenue in the heart and soul of Washington, D.C. in Anacostia, the official art district, giving love and flowers to Brother Mustafa Abdul Salam for his vision and his legacy of a dream deserved, realizing our collective emergence, the War 8 Community Economic Development Report. Do something.